Good
Your
morning,
voice
sir.
is sir, your voice is not coming.
Sir, your voice is not coming.
Still, it's not coming. Your video is also paused.
Am I audible now?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Please mute your mic. Okay. As part of our syllabus, we have 4 different types of government systems are there in the world in modern state system. We are also having uh, multiple features in our government system. We are having a unitary, and also we are having federal form of features in our government system. That's what we are having state and both state and central government systems in India. And also there are many states are adopted this type of government systems for their administrations on the basis of relationship between the center and the units. Units means here states. As like India, there are even USA also they are having 51 states in their nation. That's what in every modern state system, the division of powers is mandatory for better administration and good governance. So that's
51
what
or
the
61 sir, states in America.
51, 50 plus 1. 1
Okay,
means
okay.
Washington DC. 50 plus 1, 51.
Okay.
So So the governments may be classified as unitary and federal. In unitary government, all the powers of the government are vested in the central government only, like America. Whereas in federal government, the powers are powers of government divided between state and center. So their distinctive future of and comparative merits and demerits are as we are going to discuss in today's topic. Here in unitary government, it's a kind of government system in which a single power vested in one person or one government, which is known as the central government. So this government controls entire the government means entire the state administration system. So in fact, all powers and administrative divisions, authorities lies at the center place. Today, most of the government systems and in the world are based on unitary system of government. It is slightly different from federal model of government. In unitary government, central governments has power to increase or curtail the power of subnational units, means their states. So it can create or abolish the same in Britain, means United Kingdom, Afghanistan, Italy, China, Saudi Arabia, Spain, etc. are the most of the nations are following this type of unitary form of government. These nations are the best example for this type of government system. So the unitary government system is based on the concept of consistency, unity, and identity. That's why the centralization of power and authority system remains at the top priority. The decision-making power rests with the central government that are shared by the government with the lower level governments when needed. So it is useful. This type of government is very useful in terms that rules and regulations in this government systems remain consist and equal throughout the country. There is no discrimination. The distribution of power among the center and state are in equal proportion of distribution. So it makes timely decisions as compared to the federal government system. So if we discuss about federal government system, there is a time delay between to take any decisions among between center and state government. So here there is no time delay for the to take discussion on any administrative reform or administrative action. So the concept of freedom of speech and expression always remains at the low priority. That's why most of the principles of this unitary government are much similar to that of dictatorship system of government. Its distinctive futures are very different types of futures are this government is following. Like it is the powers, exact powers are vested in a single person or single government. So that's what the concentration of powers is only are having in one person, like United States of American president or any other presidential form of government, those who are following this type of unitary form of government. So a unitary government is one in which all the powers of administration are vested in a single center, means single government. So the center is omnipotent, and a unitary state may be divided into small units, means small states for the sake of administrative convenience. But the units or the states do not have any constitutional status of their own. So in other words, the constitution of this type of a unitary government does not confer any powers on the states. It is the central government which delegates certain powers to the units on its own accord. The units means the states are therefore subordinate agents of this central government. The powers enjoyed by them are the gifts of the central government. So as such as they can be taken back at any moment. So the units are thus not autonomous, and also it is independent in any way. And also the unitary form of government is having a single government. So in every unitary form of government, there is a single set of governmental apparatus. There is a single supreme legislature, single executive body, and one supreme judiciary. For example, England is a unitary state, or Britain is a unitary state. In England, there is a parliament, and it is having a legislature. Even the king in council as the executive. The administration is formed and executed by in the name of the king, and also the judicial committee of the House of Lords as her supreme judiciary. And also this type of unitary governments are having written or unwritten constitutions. So a unitary government may or may not have a written constitution. As for example, England and France are unitary states. France has a written constitution and England has none, means there is no written constitution. So, and also they are having, in terms of amendment system, the unitary government states are having rigid or flexible constitution system. Unlike a federation, a unitary state may or may not have a rigid constitution. For example, the constitution of England is flexible, but that the France is slightly rigid form of constitution. So there is no special judiciary in this unitary form of government. There is no need of having a special judiciary with wide powers of judicial veto in a unitary government. Even the highest court of United Kingdom, means in Britain, cannot sit in judgment over the law passed by government. So in this unitary government, this type of several features are having, unlike many nations in the modern system is following this type of features in their implementation. If we discuss about the merits of a unitary government can bring about uniformity in law and administration and policy making throughout the country. As we discovered, the central government is the responsible for every policy making or law making for the purpose of their people's needs. So, so doing it can help to bring about unified and integrated governmental machinery. So for administrative convenience, the powers and authorities will be distributed among the center and their units. So a unitary government has the advantage of being single in structure and less expensive than a federal state. So because there is no duplicate governments, as we discussed, like America, there is only single government is there. Like that, every unitary government, there is no substitute government or subsidiary government, means any duplication governments are not there like federal government. If we discuss about federal government like India, we are having both governments in center and in states also. So the unitary system also is composed of only one government that holds all the power. So here there are several differences are there between the unitary and federal government system. So there is in federal system, there is a division of powers, or it is called as federation, means the distribution of powers are vested in between state and center, and there will be, according to their constitution, the powers will be divided into the both levels of government. So here in unitary government, there will be no conflict in administration system, because there is no two governments. Like that, if a government decision made by the executive, that will be passed without any time delay and without any objections from any lower governments. So that's what, there is no lower governments, right? That's why the unitary government is, their administration is so speedy in action and flexibility in the form of implementation of the policy. So there is no time delay, there is no lack of misunderstandings between the both levels of the government. So for every unitary form of government, majorly the time is important for the implementation of such policies. If we take an example of federal form of government, every federal government is time taking in the implementation of their policy making. If we take an example of this unitary form of government system features into our constitution, we are having some unitary features in the maintenance of the government, like the flexibility of the constitution means the constitution is a blend of flexibility and rigidity. Certain provisions of the constitution can be easily amended, and in case amendment seeks the change aspects of federalism in India. So in normal times we are amending our constitution so easily. In case of the issues belongs to national integrity or national security, or it's related to our federal system, the constitutional amendment system will be in rigid condition. So the provision bring about such amendments are such is not so easy. So more powers are vested in the center too. In our government system, the major powers we have been distributed our administrative items or administrative powers into say, state and center. Like we have been divided into three levels of administrative items, like central list, state list, and concurrent list. Like that, majority of the powers are vested in central government only. There are less powers, there are less administrative items are vested in state governments. So there is a inequality, or there is unequal distribution among the state and central is there, because the majority of items are vested in central government because of the issues related to our national integrity system or our sovereignty. So the constitution guarantees more powers with the union list and the concurrent list subjects. The parliament can make laws that can override the laws by the state legislature or some matters. So the parliament can also make the laws regarding certain subjects in the state list too. So there is unequal representation in the states in the Rajya Sabha too, because the representation of the states in the upper house is based on the states' populations. For example, Uttar Pradesh has 31 seats and Goa only one in the Rajya Sabha. So in an ideal federal system, all the states should have equal representation, and also the executive is a part of the legislature. In India, the executive in both the center and the states is part of the legislature. This goes against the principle of distribution of powers between the different organs of the government. And also in our administration system, the Lok Sabha is more powerful than the Rajya Sabha. In our system, the Lok Sabha is more powerful because in the against principle of federalism. And also the emergency powers are provided by the center only. When an emergency is imposed, the center has increased control over states. All the powers belongs to the states will be goes into the central hand. So the undermines the autonomy of the states. So we are also having integrated judiciary system also, because there is no separate judiciary at the center and the state levels, because we are adopted a unified integrated judiciary system from the America. So like that, we are maintaining independent judiciary system for all the states in the India. So also maintaining So in India, we are having single citizenship formula too, because in India, we are having only single citizenship. So like we will call it as citizen of India. They cannot be citizen of states as well, like America. So this helps in increasing the feeling of nationality as it forges unity in regional and cultural differences. So it also arguments fundamental rights such as the freedom of movement and residence in any part of the nation. And also in case of new states formation or governor's appointment or all India services or integrated election machinery or veto over states bills and integrated audit machinery, power to remove key officials in the administrative systems are all belong to the central government, like unitary form of government. If we discuss about these things in federal government, we are having federal features also in our constitution. Shweta, please mute your mic. Shweta Mani. So federal government is a type of national government in which government has powers to delegate the power into other elected members of states. So there can be two levels of federal governments in a country. Either it is performing through common institutions or through powers as prescribed by the constitution of the state. It is totally opposite to the unitary form of government. In a federation or federal government, provinces or territories enjoys some rights as are available to the independent states. However, in case of international diplomacy or international relations and national security or foreign affairs and other kinds of international dealings are solely made by the federal government. Means these type of powers are vested in central government. So Pakistan, India, Brazil, Switzerland, Australia, Belgium, Canada, etc. are the significant examples of this type of federal government. Mostly the federal government system is referred to the United States government. This government is based on the republicanism and federalism. In a federal system, the power is jointly shared between the state and federal governments. In the federal government system, the powers never rest with one national government. Like India, we are also distributed the powers between the state and central. So, however, there can be certain powers and authorities that remain totally with the federal government, like policies on defense, budget, international diplomacy, etc. These type of interests based on the national integrity or sovereignty, that items are that issues deals with only central government. So the hierarchy of power in federal government system starts from the federal level, then flows into the state and then local levels. So its distinctive features are mainly the division of powers is the important feature of this federal form of government. In a federal government, the powers of administration are divided between the center and state. So the powers may be distributed in two different ways. Either the constitution states what powers the federal authority shall have and leaves the remainder to the federation. Shwetamani, please mute your mic. So the remainder is generally known as residuary powers. The first method was employed in America and also second in Canada. So the federal government in USA, for example, is weak in relationship to the states, whereas the federal government in Canada is more powerful. That's what India adopted this type of federal form of government from the In a federation, both the federal and state government are independent and autonomous in the spheres of their powers. One is not subordinate to the another. Both derive their powers from the constitution, which is supreme law of the land. The powers enjoyed by the units are therefore original and not delegated by the center. And also, this federal government is having a separate government system. It is the one of the important future for the federal form of government is separate government. In a federal form of government, both the center and the states have their separate set of governmental system. America is a federation of states, and states have therefore separate legislature and separate executives, and also we are also having like that a federal form of government. We are having state governments at the same time. We are having a central government, and also a federal government is having a written constitution. A federal government must have a written constitution, as a federation is a political partnership of various states, and consequently there must be a written constitution in the form of a written constitution. And also the federal constitution means federal government should have more or less rigid constitution too. It is regarded as the sacred agreement, the spirit of which should not be easily violated by the governments. A flexible constitution allows a scope to the central government and to curtail the autonomy of federating states. And also in federal form of government, there is a special judiciary system also there. In a federation, there are possibilities of constitutional disputes arising between the federal, central government or state governments, between one unit or another unit. Like if we take an example of India, we are having these type of misunderstandings between the or miscommunication between the central government or state government, or a state government to another state government. In case of, for example, river water sharing or border disputes or division of funds by the allocation of funds by the central government in the importance of the states, like that these disputes are to be adjudicated in the light of the constitution. For this purpose, a special judiciary with the wide powers must be established. So that's what this type of special judiciary should act as the custodian and guardian of the constitution. That's what in our India, the federal government is having a special judiciary system. It should be vested with powers of declaring any law, national or local. So the constitution is thus the supreme law in the federation, to which both the centric and the states others too. So in federal form of government, every federation is as per division of powers is according to their constitution. So in every federal form of government, like our Indian state has well-established dual polity and dual government. For federal government, the state governments and central governments are divided according to their constitution. So the force of the government is divided between the federal and state governments, which are not subordinate to one another. So as we discussed, the supremacy of the constitution is also important for this federal form of government. This means the constitution should be binding on the federal and state governments. Neither of the two governments should be in a position to override the provisions of the constitution relating to the powers and status which each is to enjoy. So this requirement is satisfied if the supremacy or overriding authority is accorded only the provisions related to the division of powers according to the constitution. Other provisions of the constitution which do not relate the relationship between the center and the units need not to be supreme. So it is also having our Indian constitution establishes a dual polity. The dual polity consists of the union at the center and the states at the periphery, each endowed with powers to be exercised in the fields assigned to them respectively by the Constitution of India. The powers of the union and the states are clearly divided according to the Constitution, and also our Constitution is written and supreme over this division of powers between the center and state. Enactments in excess of the powers of the union or the state legislature are invalid. Moreover, an amendment which makes any changes in the status of or power of the center or the state legislature is invalid. Further, any amendment which makes changes in the status of or powers of the center or the units are possible only with the concurrence of the union and the majority of the states. That's what in amendment system we are having a special majority system for the any constitutional changes or any laws made by the parliament which needs the acceptance of the majority of the states in that bill. So finally the constitution establishes a Supreme Court to decide disputes between the center and the states or between the states and other states. So in unitary system is different from this type of federation. So if we discuss about our as part of our syllabus, we are having presidential form of government and also parliamentary form of government. So this type of presidential system of democracy has the main virtue of stability in modern times. It concentrates powers in strong hands of one president. President being elected by popular vote for a fixed term need not bother of counting heads of legislature and can take measures on his own initiatives in formation of his cabinet, or the choice would not be limited to the members of parliament. The president may choose persons of outstanding competence and intellectual integrity to help him in administration of their country. Therefore, in a democratic system or democratic method may function very well with all its liberal tenets. The presidential executive has several salient characteristics as we are going to discuss about this features or characteristics of presidential form of government. Number one is elected executive is head of the state. In United States of America, the role of the head of the government is performed by chief executive, officially known as president. He is not the member of the legislature, and unlike monarch in parliamentary democracy, he has directly elected by the people. The framers adopted the formula of election of president by a electoral college. It was adopted as a compromise combining the virtues of independence from the legislature branch and indirect popular participation. Each state chooses as its legislatures and Congress specify electors equal in participation. So all states now use popular election on a state-wise basis. So in presidential form of government, it's also submitted that this president makes accountable to their government, and also he is the responsible for entire actions taken by their executive. And also sometimes, however, president in presidential form of system cannot be removed from power when their policies no longer reflect the wishes of the citizens. They can only be removed by impeachment system. So, and also it is having political homogeneity is not essential in presidential form of government. So the president has the right to appoint any person for their administrative purpose in the government sector. President can appoint persons belong to different political parties or different persons from eminence in various spheres of activity to high offices. He has the free right to choose and appoint his team of ministers belong to the same political party which has the majority in the legislature. So it is only during exemptional circumstances, example, when no single party emerges as a majority party in the elections to the legislature, or when there is a national emergency arising out of war or internal revolutions, that the cabinet can consist of ministers drawn from different political parties, like coalition governments, where are the existence in the government system, the ministers can be selected from different parties. So the cabinet in a parliamentary system is highest political organization acting as the policy framing body at the apex level. The presidential system has a cabinet but no cabinet system of the government. It is a system of presidential supremacy over the government. And also in this presidential form of government, the powers will be separated from the government. So separation of powers, which appears to be a all political ills, there is separation not only as regards and actions of the three departments concerned, as we discussed, legislature, executive, or judiciary. There is also a separation as regards as the personal are concerned. At the time, no person may hold office in more than one of the three branches of the government. So, like American political presidential system rests on these type of separation powers, which is absolutely essential for protection of liberty. Without the separation of powers, without the institution of an independent judiciary, without a champion furnished by government against government, says Professor Sutherland. So constitutional rights would become ghosts then are seen in the law, but that are elusive to the grasp. A presidential system separates the executive from the legislature in sometimes held up as an advantage. So, and also the presidential form of government is different from the parliamentary form of government, because this type of presidential form of government is like America or many other nations are adopted this type of presidential government. So if we discuss about the advantages of presidential government, in presidential government, the president is the whole and sole authority over the all three branches of the government system. So that's what he is the head of the state. He is called as head of the state and head of the government. For India, head of the state is different and head of the government is different. So the separation of government, separation of powers is important and essential for the maintenance of this government system. And also another important merit in presidential form of government is without being responsible, it retains a representative character, because the president of the government in the form of presidential form of government elected directly by the people, like America. If we take an example of India, our president, our honorable president is elected by the indirectly elected by the representatives, indirectly elected by the people. So we are not participating in the election of president of India. our public representatives, like elected members of parliament and elected members of legislative assemblies, are the electors of the president of India. So in presidential form of government, president is being elected for a fixed time. For America, 4 years. For India, 5 years. Like that, many countries are adopting this time, fixed time for their president's duration. So the presidential form of government also head of the nation and also head of the government. So the ministers and the secretaries in the presidential form of government is purely on the decision of the president only. There is no supremacy of judiciary, or there is no authority over this president or any other administrative systems. So if we discuss about parliamentary form of government, the parliamentary system has been taken from the United Kingdom for India. So because United Kingdom's constitution is the mother constitution of parliamentarianism, so it is also called ministerial or cabinet system. So cabinet or parliamentary form of government means legislature and executive are closely related and share powers with each other. And also cabinet is formed by the parliament, and parliament is the superior organ in the parliamentary form of government. There are two executives. For example, there will be elected president or king and the prime minister. So president represents the state and the prime minister represents the government. Like India, the head of the state is the president of India, and the head of the government is prime minister of India. So cabinet is responsible before the legislature. So if we discuss about the major features of the parliamentary system or character of the parliamentary systems, are formation of cabinet is the first feature of the parliamentary system. When general elections is over and prime minister is elected, then prime minister nominates his council of ministers or nominates a cabinet. This responsibility of the prime minister is of prime significance. The list of ministers is presented before head of state for his approval. So they are commonly taken from the party's leadership. Well experienced, alert, and learned members are given preference because of the sensitive nature of parliamentary system. And also this cabinet has to maintain teamwork spirit in their actions. In parliamentary systems, all ministers work in a team spirit. They must agree on any issue in cabinet meeting, and because of different opinion, the minister concerned must resign or he is expelled from the cabinet. All differences must be kept secret. The cabinet members are in the one boat, and they either swim together or sink together. This is called collective responsibility formula for our cabinet system. And also there is supremacy of premier, means in ministerial or parliamentary system, the prime minister is very important and has too many powers. In legislature, he is the leader of the house, while in executive, he is the leader of the council of minister. Prime minister is in appointment or remove, allot portfolios, and supervise the activities of his ministers. He acts as a bridge between cabinet and president. On his resignation, the council of ministers must resign. Prime minister is like a shining moon in the galaxy of stars. So in parliamentary form of government, the powers will be coordinated between the executives. Like it is the basic principle of this system is coordination of powers in between two organs, means legislature and executive share their powers. In this system, both the organs, legislature and executive, are dependent upon each other in different constitutional ways. They interfere in each other affairs. For example, maximum bills are presented in the legislature by the ministers. They can take part in legislation, address legislature, to call its meetings, and even to dissolve the lower house, etc. On contrary, Parliament can question the activities of cabinet ministers, present various motions, and to remove cabinet through no confidence. Both government organs have strong check upon the other. And also here the essential feature or essential characteristic is political collective responsibility. It is another significant attribute of parliamentary system that cabinet is collective responsible before legislature. As we discussed earlier, activities of the cabinet can be questioned and checked by legislature through various constitutional means. Ministers remain in office as long as they enjoy confidence in legislature. In case of no confidence in a single minister, the whole cabinet must resign. So a bill presented by a minister must be supported by all ministers, because its defeat means no confidence in the whole cabinet. Cabinet ministers are responsible before people through their elected representatives. People can present their grievances through their representatives, and ministers are accountable before people. And the term of the cabinet is fixed by the constitution, and but not in rigid sense. A minister may be removed or changed any time. The parliament can be dissolved during national emergencies. If parliament is dissolved, the government no longer remains in office. Parliament through no confidence movement against any particular minister, prime minister, or against the whole cabinet can remove government. Therefore, life of parliamentary system is uncertain in this type of situation raised by the legislature. So there will be two executives will be there in the this type of parliamentary form of government. So another characteristic of parliamentary system is that there are two types of executive, like titular executive or real executive. Titular executive is head of the state, for example, the president of Pakistan. This type of executive is mere a symbolic or constitutional head of the state. On the other side, real executive is to exercise real powers of the state and is head of the government, for example, Prime Minister of Pakistan. So there are different types of distribution of powers also there in the parliamentary form of government. If we discuss about the major key points of the parliamentary form of government is there is several arguments also there against the parliamentary system, because there are unqualified legislatures are elected by the people, because there is no certain qualifications are prescribed in the constitution in our Indian constitution. So if we discuss about the benefit of a parliamentary system, the parliament is the whole responsible for the protection of the constitution. It should be act as protector of the constitution, because the right to amendment system is only given to this parliament. So that's what there is a representation from the parliament is to protect the constitution of India. And also the government, the parliamentary form of government in India has to responsible for the basic structure of the constitution, because there is no authority or supremacy over the constitution by any government. The constitution is supreme over the all the types of governments in any constitutional government is there in the world. So if we discuss about this parliamentary form of government, in in civilized world, there are many nations are maintaining and following this type of parliamentary form of government. So parliaments are most common over the whole of the world. For example, as we discussed, we have adopted this form of parliamentary form of government is from Britain. So that's what British Parliament is the mother of the all parliaments in the world. So the parliamentary system of government, which is also known as the government, we should remember this thing. So this cabinet government is based on close relationship between the executive and legislature. So the theory of parliamentary system is in modern times, it is very essential for the better administration, and also should give responsibilities for the both levels of the governments. So that's what the division of power and also essential for this maintenance are to run the parliamentary form of government. So a major powers are vested and centered in the parliament. So the legislature takes the responsibility of government. So in case of this type of parliamentary form of government, the ministerial responsibility also collective in nature. As we discussed, the collective responsibility is also important feature for this parliamentary form of government. So the government as a whole is own indirectly responsible to the electorate. So through the ultimate power to control and to supervise the executive rests with the parliament only. In practice, it is the prime minister who has become all powerful. So for India, we are calling the real executive is the prime minister, and the nominal executive or nominal head is the president of India. This system does not represent truly the principle of separation of powers. There is no separation of personnel between the executive and the legislature. So these important differences are there between the presidential form of government and also parliamentary form of government. So that's what many nations are adopted these types of government systems according to their nature of the state. So as part of the syllabus, we have discussed about these 4 types of government systems. I have shared already previous question paper to some students messaged me. I have forwarded the question paper.
Daily importance to the students.
Okay.
Students.
Your voice is not clear.
అందరికి ఇంపార్టెంట్ చెప్తారు కదా సార్ అంటున్నాం ఆన్లైన్ లో
వాయిస్ క్లియర్ గా లేదమ్మా, మీది స్ట్రక్ అవుతుంది, బ్రేక్ అవుతుంది వాయిస్.
మేబీ సిగ్నల్స్ ప్రాబ్లమ్ సార్.
చెప్పండి.
సిగ్నల్స్ ప్రాబ్లమ్ ఉందా సార్? ఈడ అదే గ్రూప్ లో అందరు ఉన్నాం కదా సార్. లేదు సార్, ఇంపార్టెంట్ ఇప్పుడు గ్రూప్
పేపర్ ప్రీవియస్ పేపర్ షేర్ చేసిన ఇంపార్టెంట్ క్వశ్చన్స్ అంటూ ఏముండవు, మీరు అన్ని చదవాల్సిందే. అందుకే మీకు ఒక మోడల్ ఐడియా కోసం ప్రీవియస్ పేపర్ షేర్ చేసిన.
రేపు లాస్ట్ గా సార్ క్లాస్. టుమారో ఇస్ లాస్ట్ క్లాస్. దట్స్ వై యు టెల్ సమ్ ఇంపార్టెంట్ సార్ ప్లీజ్.
ఓకే, టుమారో
7 యూనిట్ అయిపోయింది. ఓకే ఓకే ఓకే,
రేపు చెప్తాను.
థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
ఓకే, థ్యాంక్ యూ ఫర్ పార్టిసిపేషన్.
థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్ సార్.
థ్యాంక్ యూ ఆల్.
సరే ఎగ్జామ్స్ ఎప్పుడు ఉంటాయి సెకండ్ సెమ్? యు హావ్ ఎనీ
మీరు
ఐడియా?
వెబ్సైట్ లో చూడాలమ్మా. మీకు క్లాసెస్
ఏం
అయిపోయాక
అర్థమైతలేదు
దే
సార్.
విల్ డిసైడ్. క్లాసెస్ అయిపోయాక
Okay,
మీకు ఎగ్జామ్ డేట్స్, ఫీజ్ డేట్స్ వస్తాయి. మీరు ఫ్రీక్వెంట్ గా వెబ్సైట్ చూడండి.
సరే సార్. ఓకే, థ్యాంక్ యూ సో
Okay,
మచ్ సార్.
thank you.
అబ్బా ఎప్పుడు రా సెకండ్ సెమ్ ఎగ్జామ్?
Who is in online, please tell your name.